When I was in the seminary, I had the great privilege of an audience with the Dalai Lama. He came to the seminary to address the students and the faculty. His message, as you might imagine, was one of peace and concern for human rights. And in his own gentleness, he is a powerful speaker. At the conclusion of his remarks, he was processing out of the chapel as we sang something. As he walked past a display of flowers nicely arranged on a small table, one lonely daffodil was sort of drooped over off of the arrangement from the rest of the flowers. Very instinctively, as he passed by, he paused to upright the flower and then processed out the door. He shall bring forth justice to the nations, not shouting, not making his voice heard in the street. A bruised reed he shall not break, and a smoldering wick he shall not quench. Since that day with the Dalai Lama, I don't hear that passage from Isaiah without remembering that simple gesture he made, which demonstrated his whole speech. Use power rightly. Be aware of and care for the weak ones among you. Lift them up. And as I recall other great spiritual leaders, and often I see that same sort of powerful peacefulness and message. Mahatma Gandhi, Pope St. John Paul II, Pope Francis. Of course, Gandhi and the Dalai Lama are neither Jewish nor Christian, so it is doubtful that they had Isaiah in mind very often. But there is a transcending truth that speaks at all faith levels. The truth is love. Love lived out will always bring forth justice without crushing those who are broken or snuffing out those who are out of breath. One of the speakers for our conference Day of Renewal yesterday quoted Father Greg Boyle. Maybe you've heard a Jesuit who works with gang youth in L.A. And he wrote this: "You stand with the belligerent, the surly, and the badly behaved until bad behavior is recognized for the language it is, the vocabulary of the deeply wounded and of those whose burdens are more than they can carry." Isn't that what the Lord does with us? He stands with us where we are. First, he comes through the waters of birth because we do. Then he stands in the waters of repentance because we need to. He hears the voice from above because he is being true to himself and his mission. He dies on the cross because we die too. Water, spirit, and blood testify to the ultimate truth. A truth that lies within us too, just below our skin. God is love. God is love. And when we live in love, we live in God, and we can hear his voice too You are my beloved. With you I am well pleased. Such words can soothe the bruised reed and the deeply wounded soul, if the words can get in. It doesn't mean that God is well pleased with all that we do, but God is well pleased with who He created us to be. And when we can be true to that, we can be fully present to God's love. The good news is that the Lord stands with us until we get there. The attacks on the Capitol, the angry and hateful rhetoric that has been spread, is a confession that we have a long way to go. And I may not attack with guns and fists, but I still can attack with my words. But the Lord promises we will get there. We will be what God created us to be. If we can stand in the embrace, I formed you as a covenant for the people, He says to Isaiah, to bring out those from the dungeon who live in darkness. When we stay in our hatred or anger or judgment of others, we remain in the dungeon darkness, and we cannot lead anyone out. But when we breathe in the love of God by living God's commandments, our light can be seen for the nations. And then we know in here that we are beloved children of God.